Sports! The show you know and love is back. And on this episode, we're going to talk about NFL excusing a quarterback for taking drugs. We're going to talk about Serena Williams. We're going to, of course, put under further review the suspension stuff between Deshaun Watson and Roger Goodell in the NFL. Of course, we have a wonderful DOLT of the week. And there's other things in this program that I know you're going to love. But right now, let's get to it. Headlines, please. We'll start out in Los Angeles, where the widow of one legend, Kobe Bean Bryant, is getting underway. She's suing the authorities there for basically not being, I guess you could say, right with protecting him and her daughter Gianna during the tragic January 26, 2020 helicopter flight, and the tragedy that all the things that surrounded the tragedy. So on the stand was the agent of Kobe Bryant and Rob Pelinka earlier this week, and he said the following after he was asked, "What was your relationship with Mr. Bryant?" Quote, "He's still my best friend, and I feel so grateful. Being friends with Kobe was like having a true superhero as your friend, as your best friend. He was incredibly loving and courageous, and a day doesn't go by where I don't think about how grateful I am to be chosen as the person who walked side by side with him through 20 years of his NBA journey." Close quote. Now, I look at it this way. This is what's so painful about going through that. It was a tragedy that you would say that it should have been avoided, but it definitely wasn't Kobe's fault. But you got to have better protocols in place, especially if you are flying in an area that is privy to sight lines being taken away or fog. And so to have that issue not straightened and not squared away, that is an issue. That's a problem. I don't blame Vanessa for suing the government in the Los Angeles area. They needed to take better care of not just Kobe and Gianna, but the other 7 passengers on that helicopter as well. From bad news to great, depending on your perspective, the Ravens signed Justin Tucker to a $24 million deal, $17.5 million guaranteed. Now, you're probably wondering, well, who the heck is Justin Tucker? Well, okay, let me refresh your memory. You remember back in, I think it was early October, the Ravens were playing in Detroit, and he lines up for a 66-yard field goal. You remember that field goal hitting the crossbar and then bouncing off the crossbar and through the uprights? That's the kicker. That's the kicker who now can call himself the highest paid one in the history of the NFL. And it's just, to me, it's just. He's made over 90% of his field goals, and he has scored the most points in the first 10 years as a kicker. So he is a weapon that I really believe the Ravens really need. And he proved his worth over time. I mean, he proved his worth during the stretch run to the 2012 championship they had and many playoff games they played. So kudos to Justin. We do not get in players' bags. If you get it, we're happy for you. Go get it and continue to go get that money. Now, from someone who's getting that money to someone who already has it, the bag in tow, and paying for it in ways that he shouldn't. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He made a revelation earlier this month, and then go check out my show called Revelations on the BS3 network. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ivan. He made this revelation that he consumed a plant-based psychedelic substance known as ayahuasca. Yes, AYAHUASCA. Ayahuasca. And it's not going to get in trouble with the NFL for him taking said plant-based psychedelic. So according to league spokesperson Brian McCarthy, any trace of the substance in the system wouldn't trigger any positive result under the policy. The league and the players' union collectively bargained a drug policy that prohibits a long list of substances, but ayahuasca is not on that list, and since there isn't, there's no reason for Rodgers to drop the substance. Now, he claims that this plant-based psychedelic is the reason why he's gone back-to-back MVPs. Well, that might be the case, Mr. Rodgers, but I'll put it to you this way. Ayahuasca is the reason why you went 0-0 in the playoffs. Sucker, get off of that and learn how to play better in January and February. And then you won't have that problem. But it looks like the Packers are going to have more quarterback problems, not just in the present, but in the future. Will stay there. So they played a game, the Packers did, against the 49ers out in Santa Clara. And Jordan Love started the first half, the backup quarterback currently in the Packers team. So he went out there. I think he threw a couple of touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions. But it's not the 3 interceptions in the 28-21 loss to the 49ers in a preseason game that bothers me. No, it is what Packers coach Matt LaFleur called this performance. Quote, "It was a smooth operation. I thought he got us in and out of the huddle extremely crisp and with urgency. I thought he made some off-schedule plays. He showed some nice athleticism on a couple of those runs as well. So there was a lot of good things out there from Jordan, just the poise that he just showed in the pocket. That's something that we were looking at. I thought overall, just the process of everything, I thought it was a pretty good first step for him." Close quote. Good Lord, man.
Come on!
He threw 3 picks in the first half. I'm sorry. I know this is preseason. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. LaFleur. I thought one of the things that you would not want your quarterback to do, if not one of the most paramount things you wouldn't want him to do, is, I don't know, turn the ball over. But what do I know, right? I only played offensive guard when I actually did play the game. I might be off base. Forget that. Forget that and forget you. Forget the Packers. On to some unfortunate police blotter news. Marshawn Lynch was caught sleeping in his car and got arrested for it. Now, scuttlebutt was earlier that he was under the DUI, that he drank and was behind the wheel and operating the vehicle. But that was not the case. He was not pulled over for DUI. And the authorities in Nevada were confident that he was not pulled over for DUI. So my concern is I don't want him to be put in situations where you could label him for one thing when it's not true. I want him to be comfortable and I want him to be put in the best situations possible because let's be honest, that is a treasure. Marshawn Lynch is a treasure. And I think he needs to be treated as such. And I think he needs to protect himself. And I think I think others need to protect him too, because he does not need to put himself in those dangerous situations. But putting someone in dangerous situations as a former player, that's not Marshawn Lynch. Unfortunately, that is Frank Gore, because he, the 3rd leading rusher in NFL history, was charged with simple assault stemming from an alleged domestic violence incident at an Atlantic City hotel. Now, the incident alleged that the victim, who was a 28-year-old woman from Miami, she was the one who was the recipient, the alleged recipient of the domestic violence dispute. Now, earlier this summer, the 39-year-old running back signed a 1-day contract with the 49ers, announcing his retirement. So this is supposed to be his, I guess you could say, victory lap before he gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. But this is a horrible stain on anybody's record. I don't care who you are. And speaking of stains, I really don't want to talk about that. Let's go to the Field of Dreams game, shall we? Now, I'm not going to talk about the game itself. I mean, 4-2, Cubs won it after just an errant first inning by the Reds pitching staff. That's not the focus for me. The focus for me is Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. So before the game, the two of them were caught playing catch on the field. And it was a great moment between the two. Now, for those who don't know, the senior made most of his career as a Red. Griffey, most of his career was as a Mariner, but he also played as a Red too. And it was great to look at father and son, out in the outfield, and they were just pitching the ball, just having fun, just reminiscing. That's what I believe baseball's all about, having that connection that no other game really gives you. And to see big leaguers do this, to see big league legends do this, it's a beautiful thing, beautiful sight. Another beautiful thing, which will now be my super headline, Bill Russell's number 6 will be retired all throughout the National Basketball Association. No, I am not a Celtics fan. No, I'm not a NBA historian, although I definitely can rock it and can hang with the best of them. No, I am an appreciator of a legend. And Bill Russell is a legend. 11 rings, two of them, as a coach. And he changed the sport, I believe, the way it's covered. Athletes now are looked upon as figures that you can come to and actually have some sort of discourse, some sort of conversation where you can understand that this guy must know something about whatever topic you bring to him. He carried himself with dignity, he carried himself with class. And this is what we need to have represented when all of us, no matter what no matter what basketball team we follow in the NBA, we can look up to the rafters and we can say, number 6, who was he? Well, now we can all say number 6, that was and still is the greatest champion in the history of the sports landscape. There's not one greater. Name me one who has won more than 11 championships in a career as a player. And that concludes headlines. Now, later on, we're going to talk about the NFL and the dance that Roger Goodell is doing with Deshaun Watson. But coming up next, Serena Williams. She announced she's going to probably fade away after the U.S. Open. We'll break that down a little bit further right after this. This is Cole Sports with your man, Cole Johnson.
Do a TED Talk, but I don't have anything to talk about yet. I'm getting there.
Life is for the living. We're not here that long.
You can learn anything you want to learn without any money spent.
What do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life?
I am your host, WIZE.
Are you in a life-holding pattern? Well, this is for you. Welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast. This is a BS3 Network presentation.
I want to show that attainability. I want to show the accessibility of this kind of lifestyle.
From social media to having conversations with friends and family, you always have to put on face and say face.
What brings a smile to my face is
The one person that totally believes in me, and that's my beautiful wife, Jody.
I just had to stop because I didn't value myself. I didn't love myself. And it's like, I have to learn to love myself.
Changing the world one conversation at a time. This is Revelations.
Welcome back, Cole Johnson, Cole Sports, and we have to talk about a queen. But before I do, let me touch on what my partner of Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson fame says. Cole Sports is back. That's right. It is back, and it is here to stay. Now, on to Serena Williams. Now, she has been playing ever since before the turn of the millennium, and she has become one of the greatest sports figures that we have ever seen. I don't care if you're talking about a man or a woman. We haven't seen the likes of a Serena Williams, and I'm glad that we got a chance to see her. And now that she is possibly turning the page in life to another chapter, we hope that she gets the flowers that she deserves now, and she continues to get the flowers that she deserves to have, because she is deserving of so. And why do I believe that? Well, that's why I am going to go in. Imagine this. You're 39 years and almost 11 months old. You're looking at a game that when you got to 30, people were saying that you were already old and you were already passe and the game has already passed you by. And of course, she proved them all wrong, to the point where she won a Grand Slam while she was pregnant with her daughter. She went to, she was interviewed by Vogue, and the edition of when she was interviewed will come out this next month. I'm sorry, right around the time the U.S. Open will commence. And she said in the interview that she is set to retire from tennis. And so, and so now, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Not 39, she's 40. So now that she's 40, she's about to be 41, I'm sorry, before October comes. She says that she's embarking on probably the hardest thing that she's ever done in life. And I can imagine this is hard for her. She went on to say the following, quote, "I've been reluctant to admit that I have to move on from playing tennis. It's like a taboo topic. It comes up and I start to cry. I think the only person I've really gone there with is my therapist. Maybe the best word to describe what I'm up to is evolution. I'm here to tell you that I'm evolving away from tennis toward other things that are important to me." Close quote. And you're right, Serena. That is what you're doing. You are evolving. The things that we hold on dear to life, hold on tight to life at 18, at 25, at 30, you get to the age you are now, which is 40, and you don't hold on to them quite as tight because you've learned there's other things that's more important to you. After all, when you were 30, you weren't married and you didn't have a daughter. My, how 10 years have passed because you have both of them now. You have a husband, you have a daughter, and now you're looking at life differently. And even if you didn't have either one, you would still you would look at life differently. Now, would you probably play if you didn't have a husband and a daughter? Maybe. Who knows? What I do know is that life grows you into a person where you're going to find new interests. You're going to want new challenges. You're going to hold yourself accountable for different things. And you're going to look at certain things and not hold them in as much regard. Like you were 30 and you loved to play tennis, and you wanted to tweak your serve. You wanted to make sure that you had the right footwork when you were going into your forehand strike. You wanted your backhand to be tighter. You wanted your game at the net to be stronger. So you got a little burst. You tried to run a little faster. You wanted your serve to be up there, even past 100 miles an hour. So you bulk up and hit weights. Those little things that you wanted to differentiate, to differentiate yourself from everybody else in the Women's Tennis Association tour, you wanted to do that, and you had the chance to do it, and you did it, and you proved that you were the measuring stick for many years, to the point where they were comparing you to your older sister Venus. And it was like what your father said, Richard, before you all both started to win Grand Slams. He says, you think Venus is something, man. Serena is the one who actually has the game. And you proved him right. You passed up Venus, and people don't talk about you in the same sentence as Venus anymore, because it's more along the lines of Serena is her own self. She's her own entity. I mean, you became literally, like, seriously, and I'm not being funny. Like a Madonna, like Cardi, like Megan Thee Stallion, like Beyonce. We refer to you as one name. And when you get to that type of status, especially for women, that means you are somebody that you're going to be envied, respected, adored, and appreciated in ways that the average, whatever it is, athlete or entertainer would be. And so, yeah, you're not going to look at the same. You don't look at the tennis world the same. You don't look at a tennis court the same. And I can understand why you wouldn't. You have a girl at home. that takes up more of your time, and it should. Not because you're a woman and not because you're a mother, but because you're a human being that cares. And so, of course, certain things are going to take more precedence than others. Like, you've been at 23 for Grand Slams for a minute now. That number meant a whole lot to you. That same 23 doesn't come close to carrying as much weight as it did when you got it a few years back at the Australian Open. And that's because it was because of the life you carried when you won your 23rd career Grand Slam, which in the modern Open era is the most that any tennis player has garnered. And it's now to the point where you got Rafael Nadal nipping at your heels to 21, and you got Novak Djokovic doing the same at 21. And so now you're at the point of, well, what's left to prove? And answer that question is easily nothing. You have nothing left to prove. You have nothing to prove. You have nothing to show anybody. You don't even have to catch Margaret Court, who has 24 Grand Slams in all of tennis. You don't even have to do that. All you have to do is just be you, and being you puts you in the pantheon and the class all by yourself. And that's all that's needed to be said or done. So all I have to say to you, Serena, is job well done. I'm so glad you've come to this point in your life where you don't need to have tennis define you. You've defined tennis. And very few tennis players could say that. I'm talking Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, Steffi Graf, Chris Evert. I'm talking about those types of tennis players. I'll throw the men in there too. John McEnroe, Yvonne Lendl, Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, and of course, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, and Novak Djokovic. You're in that class where you define the era in which you played, where there was everybody else, and then there was Serena. So take your bow. You deserve it. You deserve it and then some. Take your bow every single moment you get. Now, I'm not talking about from here until when you are either eliminated or win your 24th Grand Slam. I'm talking about for this point until we are 6 feet under, and I hope that is for many decades from now. Because you, my sister, are the greatest tennis player I've laid my eyes on. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. And you're going to do a whole lot of justice to this game because there's many girls who have modeled their game after you and many more to come that will. Congratulations, Serena. You deserve to have your flowers right now.
When I come back, the DOLT of the week. You're listening to the classiest sports show on the planet. Call Sports! From the Vault, a look back at a key moment in sports history.
August 16th, 2008. Now, this was also a date where Michael Phelps made history on the swimming pool, but this was also the date where the 100-meter final was going to take place. Now, the sport was looking for their new fastest man on the planet, and they just couldn't find it between the 4 years of the Olympiads. But on this night, they found their new king, all right. And he showed out in record fashion.
And a fair start, a Safa pound. Usain Bolt is also out well. Here they come down the track. Usain Bolt sprinting ahead, winning by daylight. And setting a world record, 9.68. The wind is okay. New world record. How easy was that?
Tom Hammond, the 100 meters is running a straight line, but Usain Bolt just turned the corner, and the line starts behind him.
Usain made that record-breaking run in 9.69 fashion officially. And he didn't just stop there. He also won gold in the 200-meter as well, and in the 100-meter, 4x400-meter relay. He did that twice more. Usain Bolt, he is one of the greatest Olympians of all time, and possibly the greatest sprinter of all time. And he started that march on this date in 2008.
From the Vault, brought to you by Call Sports. This is a journey into crime. A podcast journey that tells the stories of those long forgotten or those easy to remember. We go on a journey that reveals mystery, intrigue, and offers more twists and turns than a country highway. We have looked over cases, we've combed over evidence and testimony, yet we still are left with no answers. Sometimes, in order to get a deeper understanding of something, you must return to view. Now available for download for subscribers only. Each episode premieres only on the USA Today network. Join now for just $1 to receive premium content like Return to View. That's $1 to become a subscriber and a Return to View loyal listener. Alicia.
You can't hold somebody to that standard if you haven't voiced what you want and what you're needing from that.
Mika.
If you're not communicating expectations, you're waiting for your feelings to be hurt.
Nicole.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to take the time out to be alone and to get themselves together.
Ivan.
You got to be willing to work through stuff. And from the jump street, y'all done had problems. Maybe you don't need to be working through those.
BS3 Network proudly presents Queen 3 and King podcast. Live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central.
Welcome back to Cole Sports. Cole Johnson here, and I want to thank the BS3 family, Ben Sutherland III, Ivan Dawkins, and many of the shows that are on the BS3 network. It's so great to be part of the family. I love the family atmosphere that the network brings. Let's take it all the way to the top, shall we? And so, from the sublime to the ridiculous, many of you have all come for this part of the show. And it's time for me to give you what you want, as the OJs used to say. So here is this episode's DOLT of the Week. DOLT of the Week is sponsored by nobody. The winner of this episode's DOLT of the Week is... the San Diego Padres shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr. Why is he on this list? I don't think you need to ask that question, but since you did, I will thoroughly answer it for you. He decided to, how can you describe this? He decided to take some medication to treat ringworm. And the ringworm medication that he took had this substance called clostebol, spelled C-L-O-S-T-E-B-O-L. Clostebol. Now, you say, well, that doesn't mean much of anything. It's a substance, right? Well, here's the problem. Clostebol is listed as an illegal substance under the Major League Baseball's Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program. And because he decided to treat ringworm with a PED or a performance-enhancing drug, Mr. Tatis is now suspended for 80 games. For 80 games. For 80 games. This fool decided to treat ringworm with a anabolic steroid, and he is suspended for 80 games. So, Mr. Tatis, he took some time to talk about this, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "It turns out that I inadvertently took a medication to treat ringworm that contained clostebol. I should have used the resources available to me in order to ensure that no banned substances were in what I took. I failed to do so. Close quote. Well, I'll be doggone, because that is exactly my complaint. That right there is my complaint.
You've got to be joking me.
So you've had to recover from an injury. You had, and this wasn't for your injury. This was something unrelated. And you get handed this, I'm sure. Your labor union hands this to you along with Major League Baseball. I'm sure they hand this to you to say, if you take this, you're going to miss at least half the season if it's your first offense. And if it's your second, you're going to miss a whole lot more than that. And if you're a repeat offender, you're probably going to get banned from the league. I'm sure that is all written in your annual letter that I'm sure you receive with many of your other fellow ball players in Major League Baseball to not take substances like clostebol. I just don't understand it. So you went on, Mr. Tatis, and you said the following, quote, "There is nowhere else in the world I'd rather be than on the field competing with my teammates. After initially appealing the suspension, I have realized that my mistake was the cause of this result. For that reason, I have decided to start serving my suspension immediately. I look forward to rejoining my teammates on the field in 2023. Close quote. Why did you think you had the gonads to even think you could appeal it? You took a substance where all you needed to do was read that this is something you should take. And I'm sure the Padres will have to tell you, okay, if you have this injury, this type of drug is what you can take. Or if you have this type of infection, this type of supplement is what you can use to heal it. If you have a cut, this is the adhesive that you can apply so that you don't ban yourself from playing. I don't get why you believe that all you have to do is just snatch something and just take it willy-nilly when you have a whole network to tell you, no, don't take that for this, take this. And you can miss me with the, well, English is not his first language. Yes, it is. I know he speaks wonderful and fluent Spanish too, because he's from the Dominican Republic. His father is from the Dominican Republic, and his father also played in Major League Ball too. So Fernando Tatis Sr. knows the deal, and he could have forewarned you, but no, you felt as though you knew what you were doing, and you were like, okay, I could take this for this, and I won't be any for the wiser. So this wasn't for the surgery you had on your wrist that took place 5 months back. So this wasn't for that. This is for another thing. And you are part of the rebuilding process that the Padres are trying to do to get themselves in playoff contention year after year after year after year. You seeing what is modeled about 2 hours north of you, and you want to do the same thing. And you're a part of that. You're one of the linchpins. And they got another in Juan Soto earlier this month. And what do? Not even 2 weeks later, you decide to say, oh, forget it. Take a substance that you could have read that you couldn't take, and out you go. And the next time you could probably sit yourself on the field would be, I don't know, sometime, in May? Because not only can you not play the rest of this year, you can't play any playoff games either. And the playoff games didn't even count into the games that you serving the suspension for. I just don't understand it. How you doing, Ben? What's up, homie? Love you, brother. I just don't understand it. Andrew, what's up, man? I don't understand it, Fernando. All you had to do was read the paper. And if you didn't read the paper, all you had to do was go to the team. Go to the team. Man, I have this ringworm. What's the substance can I take? How difficult is that? That's all you needed to do. But no, you took a substance that you aren't supposed to have, and it may have been harmless in taking it, but it most certainly wasn't harmless for your career, because now for the rest of your career, whether people know your story or not, whether people intrinsically dive into your story or not, they're going to call you a steroid abuser for the rest of your career. You did not deserve that, young man, but that is what you brought yourself. You brought that upon yourself, man. And because of it, you've hurt your team all the way into the second month of next year. Because you won't play the rest of this month. You won't play all of September. And you definitely won't play all of April of next year. And you won't play the playoffs should the Padres get there. And more than likely you will, because I'm sure that you'll probably qualify as one of the 3 wildcard teams in the National League. What I hope for you is redemption. Look at this, turn the page, lick your wounds, and get better. And learn to trust your team and to trust the process to not apply a substance that you shouldn't take. This could have easily been avoided, yet you didn't want to avoid it. And that to me is where the tragedy really lies. Fernando, next time, brother. Next time, trust the team. Please, please, because this is not worth your career. None of this is worth your career. Man. Roger Goodell, Deshaun Watson, should we suspend them for 6 or 12 or 17 games? Upon further review, is next.
Steph Curry, Tim Anderson, Jordan Alvarez,
and it's caught. Deebo Samuel with the catch.
Michael Jordan can sense
the throw just got the king.
BS3 Network,
the hottest of hot takes, the coldest of cold hard facts. This is Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson, weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern. Check your local listings for your viewing and listening pleasure. Discouragement, sorrow, distance. Your arguments cause damage to your family. The hurt leads to divorce. You feel like there is nowhere else to turn. But there is hope for you. That's where we come into play. There is an overcomer that lives inside of you. One ready to take on the world as you leap for joy, living in victory. You'll grow to love yourself and others. There's life after divorce, and you can claim it today. Get Over Divorce, where your new story begins here every Thursday on YouTube and Spreaker. Do you want to watch this episode commercial-free and uncensored? Plus have exclusive access to content you won't see anywhere else? Well, now you can. Cole Sports is now on Patreon. Become a patron today.
Coming up on the next installment of Cole Sports, we're going to talk about a major leaguer using a cell phone in the middle of the field. Plus, the Cowboys were invoking 1972 Miami Dolphins. What? I'll address that next week. But we're not done with this week. And with this week, we have Deshaun Watson, who he's right now facing 6 games, but it might be more because the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, wants to punish him for more. You know, the public demands it. But they already put themselves in deep water because they set the precedent for things of this nature. What do I mean? Well, I explain it further in Upon Further Review.
So what to make of this suspension business? In one corner, you have Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner representing the 32 team owners of the league. On the other end, you have Deshaun Watson, the 2017 first-round draft pick of the Houston Texans, and now the embattled quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Oh, what a tangled web all these parties have woven. It all goes back to the end of the 2020 season. Fresh off a 4-12 mark, but shining brightly on the field in spite of the team's achievements, Watson felt disgruntled about being a Texan. Many off-field moves precipitated the abrasion. The trading of DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals, the abrupt firing of head coach general manager Bill O'Brien, and then came the empty promise. Watson claimed that the Texans owner Cal McNair wanted the quarterback to be involved in the new coaching and general manager hirings for the team. However, he was not figured into the plans of hiring the eventual GM, Nick Cassero, and the head coach at the time, David Culley. This slight, combined with the feeling the team needed a culture shift even though Watson signed a 4-year, $160 million contract in September 2019, compelled the quarterback to want no parts of the franchise. He then demanded a trade out of Houston. The team originally balked at the demand. From late January to mid-March of 2021, it was all quiet on the NRG Stadium front when an accusation of sexual misconduct was levied. Then, right around the time the NFL free agency got started, Attorney General Tony Buzbee announced that a civil lawsuit would be filed against Watson. The QB took to Twitter later that day to defy the claim. That was followed by the first suit being filed against the QB, March 17, 2021, which was increased to 3. On March 18th, 4 more civil lawsuits were filed against Watson, bringing the total to 7. This was when the NFL opened up an investigation into the matter, and the Texans organization speaking out about Watson's civil lawsuit fate. On March 19th, 2021, Watson retained famed Houston defense attorney Rusty Hardin for legal counsel, and on his client's behalf said that we should keep an open mind toward things until they responded to the lawsuits. March 22nd, 2021, 7 civil lawsuits against Watson became 14, as 7 more civil suits were filed against the quarterback. 2 more filed a civil suit against Watson the very next day, making the total 16. On March 29th, the total went up to 19, as 3 more civil suits were filed against Watson, with 2 more suits filed the next day, bringing the total to 21. Houston Police Department then said on April 2nd, 2021, that a criminal complaint was filed against Watson, while another woman filed a suit against him, making the number 22. Around that time, Nike pulled their endorsement deal from Watson as public sentiment began to form and shift with each turn. After one woman dropped her suit because she wanted to not reveal her identity, another stepped up in her place to sue Watson. Deshaun reported to training camp in July of 2021, but didn't see the field during preseason. Late August 2021, the Dolphins are reportedly interested in Watson, but the negotiations were touch and go the next 2 months. Commissioner Goodell announced at the end of October 2021 that they had enough evidence to place Watson on the exempt list. However, the toss between the Dolphins and Texans broke down, and once the trade deadline came and went, Watson remained a Texan the rest of the season, while not seeing the field at any point before or after. Settlement talks between Harden and Busby cooled off, leaving the case as a stalemate. Before Christmas, talk of Watson facing criminal charges heated up, setting the stage for when those proceedings would happen, which was in March 2022. In February of 2022, a judge ruled that Watson would have to appear in 9 civil lawsuit depositions. Back with the Texans, GM Casero sold the bill of goods that the Texans were taking the Deshaun Watson situation day to day. Unfortunately for them, the Dolphins forever shut the door on Deshaun Watson ever being in South Beach. They got a grand jury to hear the case, and Harris County got a chance to witness if anything Watson did was criminal. After Watson involved the Fifth Amendment 9 times, the grand jury returned a verdict of no criminal charges being filed. Once news broke, the free agency period of 2022 went crazy in wanting number 4 for their quarterback of the immediate future. Deshaun wouldn't face criminal charges, and that meant NFL teams had Christmas come in March. The Saints, the Panthers, the Colts, the Falcons, and the Browns, all these teams made it publicly known they wanted Deshaun, and the Texans immediately disqualified the Colts. They wanted to trade Watson outside of the division. He met with the Browns a couple of times, then the Saints a couple of visits. On March 17, 2022, the Browns were told they were out of the running. The same went for the Panthers, considering they didn't guarantee the 3rd and 4th years of Watson's contract. The Falcons licked their chops in anticipation of their guy returning home, when on March 18th, he signed a 5-year, $230 million contract with the Browns. The $230 million was all guaranteed, and the largest contract guarantee given in the history of the NFL to date. The genius of this move, though, is that Watson, possibly in preparation for any type of lengthy suspension in 2022, was set to make only $1 million for the upcoming year. The Browns said they did extensive investigative work in vetting Watson for the job of franchise quarterback, but they, as well as the other Watson suitors, did not contact Busby. What makes this case interesting from the NFL perspective is that Deshaun Watson was the first case which would be tried by an independent arbiter, former U.S. District Court Judge Sue L. Robinson. This was agreed upon by the NFL and the union, as the NFLPA didn't like Goodell being the judge, jury, and executioner regarding punishment. Watson worked out with the team in April and met with the NFL officials in mid-May. Before Memorial Day 2022, Goodell said they were nearing the end of their investigation, and it was announced before then that a ruling would happen before the 2022 NFL season would get started. Before June, there was a 23rd suit filed against Watson, with a 24th that came soon thereafter, as promised by Busby. As the 23rd suit was filed, it was leaked that Watson offered each plaintiff $100,000 and an aggressive NDA, or non-disclosure agreement. It was reported in early June that Watson met with 66 different massage therapists within a 17-month span. Just a little after Juneteenth, or June 19th, Watson settled with 20 of the 24 women. Before the ruling was announced, Watson settled with 3 more women, while the Texans settled with 30 massage therapists. Robinson came back with the ruling of a 6-game suspension, due in large part to the fact these weren't criminal charges and the precedent was already set. A first-time offender under NFL rules would get a maximum of 6 games due to the conduct detrimental to the league clause. The NFL got a chance to see that although they wanted to make an example out of Watson, their own laws made it impossible to an arbiter. The National Football League Players Association said they would support what she ruled, but the NFL said, not on your life. Now, they are going back to the old ways of handing down punishments, with Goodell being the judge, jury, and executioner. Only this time, he's not personally getting his hands dirty. You see, the NFL wanted a year-long ban, but in cases that ran similar, none of them received such a hefty punishment. Goodell appointed former New Jersey Attorney General Peter C. Harvey to look over the case. Who knows what the ruling will be? But the NFL put themselves in a messy situation, one where they can't easily get out of it. As a friend and colleague of mine, Chris Dietz, said months before the ruling, quote, "If the punishment is too lenient on Deshaun Watson, the NFL looks sexist. If the punishment is too harsh, they look racist." Close quote. The horrible part about this is, no matter the ruling, no matter how lenient, no matter how stringent, they can be both, because for the NFL, money talks and everything else walks.
Now, if you feel compelled to donate to the program, just hit the Cash App. That is cash.app/$host Cole Johnson. That's cash.app/$host Cole Johnson. Well, that is all the time I have. Thank you so much, Cole World, for joining me. And all you VIPs, we're coming back again next week with the same type of stuff, the same hard-hitting way. I'm Cole Johnson, and this has been yet another installment of
Thank you for tuning in to Cole Sport. To download this episode, go to Spreaker and type Cole Sports with a Z. For apparel, go to Spring and type Cole Sports VIP Boutique. That's with a Z. To reach Cole Johnson, go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. This has been a Comey Media Incorporated presentation.